So I didn't really record the video I wanted because basically I've never pulled one of these apart, so there was a moment where I was cussing and this and that and blah blah blah. Content we don't need to put up on the YouTubes. But we do have the transmission pulled out of this thing, and I'm kind of see if I can't remember step by step on how I pulled this thing apart. So let's get on to it. So here we go. Transmission's out. Let's imagine the whole transmission's in. So I'm going to start with taking off this right here, which is the battery cover. Once I get the battery cover off, I can take off my battery connections and then remove our battery retainer. That is a 13 millimeter. Once we get down to that point, we can go ahead and remove the battery tray, which the battery tray is held on in by a few fasteners, and there they be. Once our battery tray is up and out of the way, it's now a good time, if you have an engine crossbar, to put that in. If not, slide a jack up under there and support the engine transmission. It's a little early to do this. This is just how I did it. So I took and supported the engine, and then I went ahead and removed our engine mount. There are, I think these are 15 millimeter fasteners, maybe they're 13. I removed these four right here, and then the top one that actually slides up on top of the transmission mount. Well, this is the transmission mount, this is the transmission mount bracket, but it's right there. Where did it go? Basically there's the bolt, undo the bolt, and then you can pull this mount out, and then I went ahead and removed the transmission mount bracket mount. So that's up and out of my way. I've got more room, so I went ahead and also removed the air cleaner, which this sucker is freaking expensive. Be careful with it. Just basically two fasteners right there. There should be a vacuum line probably down in there, and then the hose going to the intake right here. So now I've got a lot more access to work to the top of the motor. I kind of went over and removed my starter and just pulled it up out of the way. Did not unwire the starter, just pulled it up and out of the way. It's a little bit of a pain to get to. Let's go up under the vehicle and maybe we can see what we're doing here. But it has a bracket. It's a 10 millimeter that holds our power steering line, and there is also an electrical connector right here. So I removed the bracket, the electrical connector to the oil sending unit, and then I unbolted the two 13 millimeter fasteners. You can see right here, and up here is where the starter is held in by two dowels to center it to our flywheel. And let's see here. Then I came down and across, and right here is another bracket that engine mount, transmission mount, whatever, to support the motor this way from its back and forth rock. I removed that one. We'll slip out from under here. Here is that mount, which, let's pull it out. This is what's mounted to the transmission and is removed. It is a 13 millimeter there, a 13 millimeter there, and that 13 millimeter is a little bit of pain because it gets involved with the power steering rack. But I unbolted this, but it still had to be up in place. Once this mount came out, I was able to finagle it all out. But this bolt right here, it's just back in to keep all this together. So now we got a good swinging engine transmission. we're getting so close to now pulling this engine transmission out. So what I next worked on was getting the shift linkage out of the way, which is very easy because it's just rubber mounts and you just pry them up and out right here. On this engine, or this vehicle, there was a white piece that popped up and out, and then this one was black. Here's the white one that holds on, and right here's the black one. Now to unsecure these cables from the bracket, you just have to twist open these lines and they just pop back into place. I think that's a very nice, easy design. So yeah, so it'd be real easy to get these mounts back on that transmission. I won't have to worry. You don't have to worry about taking the bracket off, because I didn't have a problem lowering this thing out of there. So you have the white one that comes up here, the black one that goes down here, and this right here is the line for our hydraulic clutch, which this is the last thing I do. So there's that. Electrical connector up here by the passenger side CV axle. I removed that. This should be for this is the speedometer, and this should be for the reverse light. Remove those two electrical connectors. That's the only electrical connectors on this baby. So there was a couple other brackets that I removed just to get them out of the way. It was that one. So I think that was the only. No, there was that one, and then this bracket right here, which holds the electrical connectors for the oxygen sensors. Removed our wheels, and then we removed our lower ball joints, which were, here's the fasteners right here, 10mm and T50. I took a T50 onto a socket, used my impact on this side with a 15mm, drove these suckers out, punched them out. These also go on to protect the lower ball joint boot. But then all I did was get in there with the pry bar and pry it down. I also removed the tie rod ends so that we could slop in these, pop them up and out of the way, and just pried down. That's all I had to do was pry down, and then I kind of somewhat hit right here to help pull this down a little bit, but I pried and everything got loosened up, and got my CV axles pulled out of the end of the steering knuckles. 32mm for the CV axles. And now the passenger side CV axle. Right here is the bracket. Right there. Voila. Two 13mm fasteners right here. Remove that. Then once the CV axle is removed from the steering knuckle, you're able to just pull this passenger side one out. Now the driver's side, on the other hand, did not want to come out until the transmission was removed. Now here's the part that I don't like doing, is I had to lower the subframe. Reminder, the subframe has the rack and pinion on it. This could mess with the alignment of the vehicle when you unsecure your mounting of the subframe. The subframe is only held on by 6 fasteners, 2 18mm up under here, a 15mm which you can access through this hole right up here, and then that's where the 15mm fastener is. And this goes likewise on the other side. So there's 2 down under here, this 15mm fastener, likewise on the other side. It's just lowered and kind of pushed back a little ways, and it's still being secured right now with my jack stands and I have the jack up under it right now, just kind of hanging around. I also, before I lowered the subframe, I went inside the vehicle, right by the gas pedal. You'll see the steering arm come down. There's a 10mm fastener right there. Loosen that up, and that allowed that to fall. It'll be real easy when we go to push that back up and then re-secure the subframe. That bracket will just slip right back on there, no problems, and then we'll plug her back in. But the big thing to remember, when you disconnect that steering, do not move the steering wheel, because the steering wheel has wiring and everything going up in it. Don't know on this model, but it could cause an issue. So do not move any of your steering components, so that way it relines back up and back in, because you could tear the wiring for the airbag, steering wheel controls, blah 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 blah. You know, it's just, I don't know how it's done, but it's very advised. Do not move the steering wheel or the steering at all. So, okay, cool. So now I'm getting ready to drop my transmission. I also, before I pulled my CV axles out, I drained that transmission of its fluids. There is a drain plug. You can't see it real well, but right there. And then there's one on the front end of the motor. They are a 8mm fastener. Drain the fluid out of this baby. And getting on to the last part before I dropped this engine transmission out, there is this, which I keep it right here, this lovely little guy right here that just goes straight on in there, which holds that line going in. And then the only thing I did was I pulled that line up, and now it's sitting up here, keeping it above the brake reservoir, because that is how the clutch works. That's where it gets its fluid from, is right here at the brake reservoir. Do not want that to run out of fluid, or you will have a total mess on your hands. You're going to have a mess when you go to put that all back together. So then I was able to take out all these lovely, I think there are 11 fasteners right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yes, 11. I took these out as I was working on taking the transmission out, but I left one fastener in, and it was at the top, easy accessible, right up here. So, you know, take out 10 fasteners as you're going around the transmission, just to kind of help you. So maybe you won't have to get down on the floor too often, but when you're down there and you can reach them, take them out. But make sure you just leave one in. Just kind of helps you move along. If you can see it and you can get to it real quick, and you got a 13mm with you on hand, go ahead and pull it. So, yeah. I think that about covers pulling this transmission. Then once I had the transmission, I was able to pop that one out. It was still a little bit more difficult, but remove that. Those were 8mm fasteners to remove our clutch. We also have to pull out the slave cylinder for the clutch, and that gets replaced with this job because that's what comes with it. I priced it yesterday with tax and everything at my parts store. It was $366.78 to purchase this clutch with the slave cylinder. So it really wasn't the video I wanted to give you. It's kind of hard for me to video and work at the same time. I did have a camera set up on a tripod, but just wasn't giving me the video that I wanted. And basically I just need to get something mounted up here looking down, and then another camera looking that way. You know, it's a pain in the butt to actually get in there and record. So it's removed. My explaining on how it was done may not be up to your liking, but I'm telling you how I did it, almost step by step. May not have been in those steps, but that's about everything I've done to remove this transmission and get it to where it's at this point. Unfortunately, I will not be able to get back on this job. Pulled it on a Saturday, it's Sunday, ordered parts yesterday on Saturday. They will not be here until Thursday. So if you are removing this, you should check with your parts store if you want to try to get this job done quickly, and make sure they have the parts in stock or get them ordered in advance before pulling your transmission. So I hope this information was useful to you. May not have been the information you wanted to see, but you've seen all the parts, all the bolts, everything. You've seen it all. The brackets, everything. You've seen it all. So the video is what it is, so comment, rate, and subscribe. And I'll catch you on the flip side. So later on.